You're now listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast, your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.
Hello, Colorado. This is the Engage the Rockies podcast. I'm your host, Jarvis Caldwell, Executive Director of Engage the Rockies. Today, we are talking migrant gangs in Colorado and a little bit of a follow-up and an update to our very first ever Engage the Rockies podcast episode. And this is our very first returning guest, Mr. John Fabbricatore. John, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being our first returning guest. And also, I think I had mentioned this to you offline, but the episode that we did on the immigration crisis back in March earlier this year, it was our very first episode. And it was also still to this day, after 30-something episodes, our number one most downloaded episode. So this is obviously a topic that people care a lot about and want to know more about and want to get a take from somebody that I would consider and many people would consider an expert on this issue. So thanks for joining us again.
Well, I really appreciate you having me back. And, I'm happy that we got the coverage that we did. It's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me read your bio here for the listeners, John, if they didn't listen to the first episode. So John is an Air Force veteran, retired ICE field office director, and board member of the National Immigration Center for Enforcement, also known as NICE. He is also the Republican nominee for Colorado's 6th congressional district, encompassing the areas of Aurora, Littleton, Greenwood Village, Centennial, and Buckley Space Force Base. All right, John, let's jump right into this. So the reason I reached out to you earlier this week is because I think it was on Monday of this week, I had seen a report on the news, on the national news, and this report was discussing illegal migrants who were captured at the southern border, who are on the terror watch list, which is always an alarming thing, right? So according to the statistics, under President Trump's term, there were 11 total captured at the southern border. Under the Biden administration through June of this year, there's been 375 captured at the southern border. Now, I think that's already alarming enough, right? Because that's like a 3,000+% increase in people captured on the terror watch list. The most alarming thing that I really wanted to talk to you about was out of those 375, 99 of them were released into the United States. So right now, there's basically 100 people on the terror watch list in our country, and I don't know if ICE or whoever, Homeland Security, I don't know if they know exactly where they're at. So I kind of wanted to get your take on that, because you know the ins and outs of it and how it actually operates and works, and whether we know where these people are or how we get a hold of them, things like that, and how this happens in the first place.
Yeah, so let's jump right into that. So we're seeing a definite uptick of people coming to the country, number one, and as that number grows, we're also going to have a lot more of the criminal element coming across. Now, not everyone trying to get into our country is coming in for a nefarious reason, looking to do harm to the United States. But the more people we have coming across illegally, we're definitely going to find pockets of those. And we've seen an increase in the amount of people who are on the FBI's terror watch list. Now, to explain that terror watch list, when someone gets on that list, it's because they have some kind of derogatory information that the FBI has found out about them through intelligence, either working with other countries or, whatever apparatus the FBI is using to find that intel that links to the person that came across. So it could be something like where they've supplied money to a terrorist organization. They've gone and trained at a terrorist organization's camp. They are friends or family of someone who is a known terrorist. There could be various reasons why someone will link onto that terror watch list. Things that they say online. I mean, just a ton of different reasons. Mm-hmm. Where we really need to be careful, though, is, historically, we would have taken those, even if they had some DROG information, even if it was posting something online, and we would have kept them in custody until we figured out exactly who they were and exactly why they were coming in, put them through the removal process. So, if they were an asylum claim, they would have seen an asylum officer right away, gone in front of a judge, and all this would have occurred inside detention. What's happening now is because there's only a limited amount of beds. This administration, the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has cut down on beds from the high of 52,000 that President Trump had down to about 37,000 beds right now, and they're using about 34,000 of that 37,000. So there's way less beds to maintain, and there's not enough space for them to put these people in. So they're releasing them into the interior of the United States. And they're losing track of them. I mean, ICE has a very limited number of officers. FBI does get an alert that these people are coming in, but again, FBI does not have these advanced teams that are going down there and following these guys once they're released. They do that in certain cases. Obviously, we just saw that with a Pakistani that came in, where the FBI did have a follow-up team on that, and Overwatch on that person the whole time. But it's not like that for all these cases that are coming across. They are simply being let into the United States, and that's, to me, it's very troublesome. This administration is pretty much lying to the American people. Saying, well, these people have been vetted. They really have not been vetted. That terror watch list is coming up, and but that's the only information maybe that's coming up. It's some of these criminal histories that these people have in these other countries are not coming across in the initial vetting. So the FBI one may, because there's interoperability in our system, and when ICE runs somebody through the system on the border, if there's an FBI hit, there will be interoperability with that hit, and ICE will see the FBI hit for the terror watch list. But that doesn't necessarily mean that other things from other country are also hitting when ICE runs through NCIC. If there's no interoperability with that country, we're not seeing any other criminal history. The only thing that's coming up is the FBI terror watch list. And again, that's why historically under previous administrations, we would have put that person in custody until we were 100% sure of whatever their criminal history was. We're not sure, and they're releasing them into the interior of the United States, and United States citizens should definitely be alarmed.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just trying to think through this, like, practically, right? Like how this actually operates on the ground. If you're an ICE agent and somebody comes across the border, you bring them in, I guess you get their personal information or whatever they tell you, frankly, because I know for a fact, I've seen the videos of the stacks of passports and IDs and things like that, where people are ditching them before they get across. And then they can tell you, basically whatever they want to tell you, right, when they come across. But so the way this would work practically is you're an ICE agent, you're intaking the person, they tell you who they are, you type their name into the NCIC, I think is what you called it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe, I guess maybe it hits right away if there's something derogatory on there, or maybe if the derogatory information is coming through a different system or a different country or something like that. Is it plausible that you get somebody in, you run their name and everything, nothing comes up right away, you release them because that's what they're doing there, right? Normally, I think you said before on our other episode that maybe they would hold them for X amount of hours, or they'd have X amount of time to vet them, but because of the mass numbers of people coming in, that number's cut way down. So they're processing them way faster than what they would. So is it possible a lot of times people are getting released into the country and then we're finding out, oh crap, this person's on the terror watch list. Now we have to figure out where they're at.
Absolutely. And we've seen it. So this is how it kind of works. So it's actually Border Patrol that's doing the initial processing. So
right.
Border Patrol, they're coming across the border. Border Patrol is making the arrest. They're bringing them back to the processing stations down at the border. They're doing a quick vetting. Vetting used to take a lot longer under previous administrations, where they would, pretty much take the person down to their underwear, look for scars, marks, tattoos, stab wounds, bullet wounds, you name it. They're looking for it on the body. They'd look through pocket trash. They would look through, inside clothing to see if there's phone numbers inside clothing. I mean, they're doing a whole kind of intel brief, and that would take, an hour, 45 minutes per person. They've got that down to about, 20 minutes right now, and they're getting the person through the door. So, they're looking through multiple ICE systems, and NCIC is linked into that through the systems that we check. So that's a system that's interoperability with the FBI. So if any derogatory information is in there, we're going to see that initially. But again, if it's not linked to another country right away, we're not going to see that. And it does happen that we see it months later. So when that information is put into the system, it does start to expand out through the universe. Okay, it goes through different computer systems, through State Department, FBI, and everyone's going to see that if there's a hit or a flag on it somewhere along the line. Agents can actually go in and put information in so that they're alerted on somebody if they're working a case. And, if the agent's asleep, they're not going to see that alert until they wake up the next day and they say, oh, this guy's back in the United States.
Right.
But what we do see is Interpol a lot will then pick up these cases, but it takes weeks to months for Interpol to see the case and then pick up on an Interpol, what's called a red notice. Interpol will send a red notice over to our law enforcement and say, hey, we noticed that this guy crossed your border on such and such a date, entered the United States, and he's wanted for murder in, say, Brazil. And we go, oh, okay, that guy came in July 1st. Where did he go? Oh, it says he went to Denver, Colorado. So they would send that alert to Denver, Colorado, send the red notice and say, hey, we think this guy went to Denver, Colorado because that's where he said he was going.
Right.
Can you guys get a team together and kind of look for him? And, we've had a terrorist from Somalia come in. Actually, he was from Senegal, but he was linked to a Somali terrorist organization. He had been a bomb maker. He wandered the U.S. for a year before they were able to catch him. We just had a gang member come in, that also almost a year before he was caught. And there's multiple cases over this last year or two where we've seen these red notices come in weeks to months, and it's taken ICE even longer to find the person because they kind of go into the wind. Look, they tell you they're going to such and such a place, but we're not tracking them. We have no idea that if they wind up in Denver or if they go to Utah or wherever they wind up. So, there's this breakdown in intelligence once they get into the United States, and it's a lot of work for the ICE agents or FBI or whomever, U.S. Marshals, picks up that case and tries to find that person. And that lost time is dangerous for United States.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, like you said, it's almost like it's an honor system. We don't have ankle monitors on on the millions, over 10 million.
We actually put some ankle monitors on, but even that program is misused, and they stick an ankle monitor on and they're taking it off within a week or two.
Right.
Again, we don't even have all the relevant information on this person. They leave it on until they get to the location where they're going, and they check in with ICE, and then ICE takes the ankle monitor off, and then the person disappears. Or the ankle monitor gets put on at the border, and they cut it off within hours of being in the U.S. and throw it on the side of the road as they're zooming up the highway.
Yeah, and it's not like we have the resources. It's not like your local county jail where if they put you on house arrest and you have an ankle monitor, you cut it off, it alerts the local police who, maybe has a unit right down the street. They can run over there and check on you. Right. We just don't have those kinds of resources. Like you said, we do not. You may be 6 hours away from the border on the highway when you cut it off, and good luck.
Yep.
And so there was two more things that I wanted to just mention. We don't have to necessarily go into them because we mentioned on the first episode, but these are the people that we captured, I guess you could say, at the border, right? Or came through port of entry or something like that. The gotaways is always going to be an issue because we don't know what we don't know. So if somebody sneaks across the border, they're not captured by Border Patrol or ICE or anybody else at the border. We have no idea. And I mean, the estimates are all over the place because, again, how do you estimate something that you don't technically know? But it very well is in the millions of people who have crossed the border, not had any interaction with Border Patrol and gotten away. So 275 to me, 375 on the terror watch list is just what we know for sure. We have no idea. Yeah, we have no idea. I mean, even if 0.5% of the gotaways had some kind of terrorist connection, or even 0.1%. You're talking 0.1% of millions potentially, right, which is a lot of people. And frankly, just thinking of it in a common sense fashion, if you knew you were on a terror watch list or you had some kind of affiliation and maybe you had nefarious intentions, you would try to be a gotaway, yes, right? Like, yes, you're not going to walk through the port of entry and say, oh yeah, here's my information. Here's my passport, run my name, that, cause if you know you're on the watch list, then you're going to try to be a Godaway.
We've estimated that a lot of the Gotaways have criminal backgrounds because, just like you said, they don't want to get caught because, a few of them, especially if they got deported from the United States for a felony, like say they committed a sex crime in the United States, did their time, went to jail for 5 years, got deported, got sent back over the border. They're definitely an NCIC, so they're going to pop as soon as their fingerprints are taken, and then they're going to get federally prosecuted again because they re-entered the United States as a felon, and they're going to go to jail for 10 years. Right. So, a lot of those Gotaways are those kind of guys. They're these guys that know they have a criminal background. They know if their fingerprints get taken, they're going to federal jail. They're the ones that are zooming across the border trying to avoid Border Patrol.
Yep, absolutely. And then the other point that we had made last time was, when we're talking about running these people's names through a system and things like that, we're relying on other countries who are doing their job and this and that. Yeah. But then you have countries like Syria, where it's a hotbed of terrorism. They've been in a civil war for over 10 years now. They're not allies of our country, so it's like we don't have that kind of working relationship. I'm sure probably with Syria. And so if we have some Syrian citizens coming across the border who are on the terror watch list, we're probably never going to know because they're not necessarily tracking it the way they should be. Exactly. And so, and that's just one of many countries that would place in that category. Okay, John, let's move on to more local here. So I've been seeing more and more reports. So and let me back up and kind of precondition this. So when we talked back in March, it was such a hot topic, the illegal immigration issue, because buses and buses were coming in from Texas and maybe even Florida, but dropping off illegal immigrants in Denver, and so it was a very hot topic, right? And so I've noticed, just because I pay attention to the news cycle, it's kind of died down as far as is controlling the news, and I want to say that probably within the last maybe month or so, I've noticed kind of the news cycle ramping back up and getting more and more coverage. And a part of that reason it's getting more and more coverage now is because of the crime, which when you came on the first time back in March and we were getting busloads of people, tens of thousands of people, we talked about this. We talked about, hey, crime is going to be a collateral consequence, a second, third order consequence of this happening. And I think now we're at that point where we're starting to see it more and more. And something that we're seeing right now is reports of this Venezuelan prison gang. And I know you're going to correct me here, but I'm going to try to say it. Tren de Aragua. Aragua. Tren de Aragua. Also known, I think, is it TDA for short?
TDA. Yeah. Just call them TDA. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna call them TDA. So Venezuelan prison gang. Now, I remember when a certain national politician had mentioned that I think he specifically said Venezuela emptying their prisons and letting their people leave and come across the southern border. And I remember, it was called conspiracies and racists and all these other things. And so it struck me when I first heard about TDA. I was like, what's this TDA that people are talking about? And then I saw it would say Venezuelan prison gang. And I'm like, okay, well, a prison gang is now in the United States operating in Denver. That's weird because I was told that, it was racist and other things to talk about that. But can you give us a little bit of whatever you know about them and kind of background and the reports, whether you believe they're true or not, of them operating in and around the Denver area?
Yeah, so TDA is a Venezuelan prison gang. It originated in prison and then moved out onto the streets in Venezuela. So as guys were going in and out of the prison, the establishment outside of the prison grew. And they started to get, I don't like calling them a gang. We don't have a lot of traditional gangs anymore. They're transnational criminal organizations. That's exactly what they are. I hate that the media calls them a gang because it makes people think that they're just this loose, this group that's out there doing small time crime. It's not like that. I mean, these groups, these transnational criminal organizations are involved in human smuggling, human trafficking, sex trafficking, extortion, murder, you name it, they do it to get money. So they're akin to the cartels. They are here in the United States. Maduro did let them out of the prisons and got rid of them. Look, he doesn't want them there. So why not, boot them out and try to direct them, toward the United States? Like, it's a destabilization of the United States for more crime to occur here and us to have to deal with his prisoners. He's not
Right. I
taking
mean,
them
Fidel.
back.
Right. Fidel did the same thing back in
Yes.
the 80s when he released he opened up the Cuban prisons and said, "Okay, here you go,"
Jarvis,
and let them come
that's a
across.
great point. When people say
Hmm.
that this is a conspiracy theory, look, we've got historical relevance to this. It's
Right.
happened to us before. Cuba did it. I mean, this
Yeah.
is what happens in a poorer nation to get rid of the prison population.
Yeah, the
That's what's
whole
going to
plot
happen.
of Scarface, which is one of my
Yes.
most favorite movies. The
What
whole
was
plot
that?
of Scarface, and that's probably where I learned that. Was yeah. He
Yeah,
was, Tony
exactly.
Montana was a prisoner from Cuba that was
Yep.
released by Fidel. But yeah,
And
anyways, go
and,
on,
and, and
please.
look, even if a lot of these are not TDA,
Hmm.
not every Venezuelan criminal coming in is going to be linked to TDA. There
Right.
are just some criminals, right? And they do loosely get into some gangs, team up together because they were from the same city in Venezuela or whatever, and they're going to commit
Hmm.
crimes together, but they may not be linked to TDA. But we have this illegal population that's coming in. They're coming in illegally. They're not coming here for the right reasons. They're not really coming here for asylum. They don't really
Hmm.
care about becoming a real United States citizen and giving back to this country. They're not here for the right reason. And there's lots of people that are coming to the US for the right reason. They are escaping, some tragic circumstances in their countries. But
Hmm.
there's lots of people coming here for financial gain. And part of that financial gain is taking advantage of United States citizens, our laws, our richness, the things that we have here that they can take and sell, the ability to sell drugs in our market, the ability to sell human flesh in our market, through sex trafficking.
Hmm.
There's all these things that they can now do by taking advantage of the United States because we are not enforcing our laws at the border or in the interior of the United States. We're seeing more and more DAs just drop crime, drop charges. People get back out on the street. We just had this one guy in New York. They had him like for 30 something crimes committed in New York, and they kept letting him go. The situation's just gotten out of hand. We need
Hmm.
to be serious about enforcing our laws if we're going to stop them. And because of sanctuary status and our inability to be effective in our law enforcement here in the state of Colorado, TDA now has a foothold in Colorado, and they're committing crimes here.
Yeah. Now, so while we're on that issue of crime, something I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if this is TDA related. You may know more about this than I do. So there was this jewelry store in Denver called Joyeria El Ruby. It was robbed in June, and I think there was like eight assailants or something, if I'm not mistaken, which sounds like a gang. And they took $2.5 million worth of jewelry. Homeland Security agents arrested, I don't know if it's Jean Torres Roman, 21 years old, in New Mexico, and they're investigating his involvement with this jewelry store robbery. So he was arrested all the way down in New
Yeah.
Mexico. I don't have any information on if the other 7 people, because I think it was 8 total, if the other 7 people have been caught. I think the rumor is that this person, this Jean Torres Roman, is an illegal migrant here, and I think maybe affiliated with one of these gangs. You may know more about it, so I'm open.
Yes, information that I've gotten is that he is affiliated with a gang. It does look like it's TDA. Until Homeland Security actually releases a report on that, it's pretty much speculation
Yeah,
or some information that I've gotten from insiders that I know.
yeah.
But this is a classic hit on what they're trying to do and trying to
Mhm.
move the merchandise down south of the border, turn that jewelry over for cash or drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just we're seeing a lot of they call these like crash teams. It's just like 8 or 9 people. They
Right.
go in there. They hit like cell phone stores, jewelry stores, and they just totally wipe out the merchandise, steal it, put it on the black market, sell it, trade it. A lot of it gets traded for drugs so that they can make more profit. There's just a lot that's going on. But again, it's because we're not enforcing laws. We're not out there really putting our foot down, stopping these things, and letting people know that if you do this in Colorado, if you do this in Denver, if you do this in Aurora, if we catch you, you are going to jail. You're going to jail for the next 25 years, and then when you get out, you're being turned over to ICE and you're being deported. You know,
exactly.
There's not even any guarantee of that because of sanctuary status that they're going to be turned over to be deported. So, these criminal elements are joyously coming to Colorado because they know Colorado is ripe for the pickings.
Yeah, and so I watched the video of that jewelry store robbery, and I mean, what it was very reminiscent of is what you see, in Chicago, where they do these. They have some term for it. It's like some takeover or
takeover.
Where takeover. Where and it's like they know that if they just go in with 8-10 people or something, it's overwhelming. If you have 2 or 3 store clerks there, they're like, what are they going to do about it, basically? And you just flood it with a bunch of people, smash stuff, and then you can be in and out within just a minute or two.
Yeah.
And then you have 8 people disperse. Well, you may only have 1 police unit, a few blocks away or maybe a couple miles away. Well, how is he going to get 8-10 different people, track them down? Yeah. And so basically it's you're unable to stop the crime like as it's happening. Because even if you pulled up as a police officer and there was 10 people there and you're by yourself, I mean, you can only stop one person at a time. Right. Everybody else just takes off. And so basically you're in the position now where we can't stop it as it's happening. So now we're going to have to go through the investigation process. Yeah. And obviously, just like with this one guy, he fled down to New Mexico. It's untelling where the other 7 people are. They could be by now, this happened in June. They could be over in New York. They could be back in Mexico. They could be wherever. They could be in Venezuela if that's where they came from.
Yeah, and just one quick point I want to make about that is, look, most of these crimes are being committed in migrant communities. So communities where we have a lot of migrants, because a lot of them don't want to report the crimes. A lot of them are afraid of these gangs. These gangs know who they are because they came from the same villages and cities that these people are from, and they know where their families are located in those other countries. So they're committing crimes in areas that the police aren't even in. The police aren't doing a lot of work in those areas. So the real victims of this, of course, there are United States citizen victims, and there are people who are legally here who are victims. But the vast majority of the victims are actually migrants.
Right. Yeah, and just we kind of touched on it earlier, but so we're not sure if he's this person that they arrested is technically TDA affiliated. However, based on Homeland Security, the fact that they were reporting it and they actually put it on their social media, I think it's understood now that he is here. Yeah. He's an illegal migrant here. So just using common sense and deductive reasoning is, if he robbed the store with 7 other people, I mean, it's safe to assume that it was probably
right.
It was probably all illegal migrants that did the robbery.
Yeah,
but we don't know that for sure technically.
HSI knows it. ERO knows it. Whoever else is investigating knows it. Whether that information will be released is another part of the story.
Right, exactly. All right, John, I want to respect your time. There was one more thing that I know you've been very involved in. I want to make sure that we get it covered here. Is there's this issue in Aurora right now with I think it actually might be multiple apartment complexes. I know for a fact it's at least one apartment complex in Aurora. It just got shut down. The official story is that it's shut down because of code violations. However, you had pointed out that they did an inspection just in November of 2023 and they passed the inspections, but now they're being shut down, and I've seen the videos. I mean, it looks it looks like it's violating a lot of codes, right?
Yeah.
But now there's another side to that story that the apartment complex owners are telling. And I know you've had some contact, I believe, based on what I've just read on social media. So I'll let you kind of explain kind of the other side of the story there.
Well, according to 9 News, I'm the de facto spokesman for this, but which isn't true. Look, I wanted information on this. I am running for Congress, but that doesn't even matter. Like I care about this community. I'm a former law enforcement officer. Law enforcement is in my blood. I understand kind of how these things work from being in law enforcement for the last 23 years. So I kind of wanted to dive into it a little bit, on my own. And I was able to connect with the PR firm, with the management, with the owners of the building. I drove by it numerous times. I saw the trash. I saw the violations that were, present, from what I could see. I didn't get out of my vehicle and walk around. Even though I'm armed all the time, that's not something, that
Right.
I want to do by myself. But, I
Right.
did see, from what I could see, even driving through there. All right. It's not the best building. But in talking to the ownership and the landlord, I was provided documentation showing that they had put in over $300,000 in physical measures to improve the situation months ago. They had passed inspection. They had put in new water heaters, put in new camera systems, and every time they turned around, things were destroyed. The minute that they put cameras in, the cameras were torn down. The minute they put new doors and new door locks in, the doors were kicked in. People started being threatened in the apartment complex. The on-site manager that was there was threatened so bad that they quit. The management team had to pull out of there because of threats, and they haven't been there in 6 weeks. When I spoke to them, the landlord admitted that the trash had not been picked up in 6 weeks. He provided letters to me in which he had been communicating with Aurora PD through emails. Their attorneys have been talking to Aurora PD to get help. And Aurora PD was just pretty much telling them, well, call 911 if there's a problem. Call 911. And, and then, last year, Aurora provides them with a list of all the crimes that are being committed at that building. And Aurora says, we're going to shut you down as a nuisance violation for all these crimes. And the landlord and the new owner came in and said, hey, these crimes are being committed here. We're not law enforcement. We're asking you for help to stop these crimes and keep our residents safe. And then it started coming out that TDA may be involved. And look, I'm not 100% sure that it's TDA. Yeah. And I've even said that on X. Like I haven't visibly, looked a guy up and down or interviewed or interrogated anybody to figure out where they're from. It doesn't matter to me. I can tell that crimes are being committed there because I can look at what Aurora PD itself is putting out, saying how many crimes have been committed there.
Right.
You can look at the call logs for there. The Falk ambulance company will not go into that apartment. They stage a block away. Aurora PD themselves is on a 3-car limit. Minimum to go to that apartment. They will not respond unless 3 units are available.
Wow.
So Aurora to then turn around and say, we're going to shut this building down because of all these violations. Are there violations there right now? Absolutely there are. I'm not going to say that there's not. I'm not going to say that this is the most glorious apartment complex in the world. Right. But I will say that it's gotten worse because of the negligence of law enforcement in allowing this situation to fester for so long that it grew out of control, that the only other thing they could do was shut the building down. Instead of going in there and ferreting out the bad elements that were in there, whether it was the TDA gang or just really bad guys that were taking advantage of the 99 units that were in that building, we know something was going wrong. Yeah. And then they turn around and they just shut the building down. So no one gets arrested. They don't find the bad guys that were stealing stuff or extorting people in that building. And those bad guys then go on to another structure or another apartment complex. So I have information that there are up to 4 apartment complexes in the area that are being extorted, whether it is by TDA or gangs that have affiliated with each other to do so. There's still a problem. And that 9 News wants to make this some right-wing conspiracy theory and say that it's just right-wingers that are putting this out, when you can pull the 911 logs, you can pull every single crime that's been committed in that area, and they're not even looking at that. They're telling me I don't have evidence of the situation that's going on. It's bunk. It's wrong. And, the city councils are trying their hardest. We got some great counselors out there. They're trying to bring us to light, and 9 News is making fun of them, saying that, these are just the right wingers on the council. No, look, we care about people. We don't want crimes being committed against good people that are in those buildings. Crimes shouldn't be committed against anybody. But the victims inside that building were only trying to be there and live out their life. And they're getting extorted and taken advantage of by a criminal element. And we have media in this state right now that's complicit and pushing out a narrative and a message that is wrong. And look, they shut this building down, so all of a sudden it's fixed, right? And it's not fixed. That criminal element's going to move on to the next situation. There's going to be more people affected by this, and something needs to be done about it.
My initial thought was, okay, so let's say they shut it down. Well, what does that mean? You shut it down. Okay, so that means that the owner of the complex can't legally rent out apartments there. But I mean, what's to stop them from? They're still going to be operating in there and living in there. Yep. Maybe they won't have electricity technically or something like that. Well, and it's like, now all of a sudden it's a command center for illegal activity, because if you board up the doors, I mean, they're already tearing the cameras down and kicking in the doors and things like that. Okay, so you board up the doors and say the city shut this building down. Okay, well, what's to stop the criminal elements from just using it now anyways?
Yeah, and 57 family units got put out into the street. They were told they had 6 days to find new arrangements. Now, look, people live in that apartment complex because they can't get into other apartment complexes.
Right.
Like it's on the lower scale. I mean, let's be honest about this, right? Many of the people who live in that apartment complex are probably on their last option to kind of places where they can live. Either they don't have the financial means or not here legally. Maybe some of them have had criminal things in their past background, but now they're trying to turn their lives around, and this is the only place that they can reside. There's reasons why people are living there, and those people are now out on the street. So that was the city's, instead of going in there and taking out the bad guys and making sure that the landlord could get in there safely and clean that property up, they shut the building down. And is that going to be the option now? Like, if stores get robbed, hey, we'll just shut the store down so the bad guys can't rob this store anymore. Cars get stolen. Hey, your car got stolen out of your driveway. You're not allowed to have a car anymore because it might get stolen. So we're just not let you buy a car anymore. It's just stupid. It's stupid to me. And again, I'm not covering for the negligence that was on site. I saw it with my own eyes. But there can be more than one story, right? Two things can be true. That there is a criminal element in that building and there is negligence in that building, but the negligence, maybe just the negligence, is due to how dangerous the situation was for cleanup crews and maintenance and the manager to be inside that location.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine being the people hired to go and clean up the trash around there? And it's like, if there has to be at least 3 cop cars to respond there, and then what's your chances is just a cleaning guy trying to haul off trash or something like that? Yeah,
right.
I mean,
now that they're cleaning it out, they're going to have 5 or 6 police officers there. They're going to have an ambulance there as it gets cleaned out, right? And then they're going to say, "Oh, look, we were allowed to go in there, and nothing happened." Yeah, because you shut the building down, and then you sent in a bunch of crews. Like you said, when the maintenance guys were going in there, they were going in by themselves without police backup, and then they were getting extorted. Their tools were getting stolen. They were getting extorted. I don't like how the city handled it.
Yeah, I totally understand on that. So I saw a video. I'm trying to remember when it was, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, of the title on the video was that it was the TDA gang that took over an apartment complex. Again, whether it was TDA or not, don't know. But the video it's a camera in a hallway of an apartment. There's a lot of people. There was even kids and things like that there. And the guys walk up to the door, and the first guy kicks the door open, and they just kind of flood into the room. Again, whether that's a gang or not, was that the same apartment complex, or is that somewhere else?
No, that video came from Whispering Pines or Whispering Springs. It's another apartment complex in the area that's been taken out. That wasn't the Nome Street address. There's another video floating around that's from Nome Street of a little gunfight in a courtyard. That one is Nome
I've seen
Street.
that one.
I have that video.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a guy on X called Do Better Denver. I don't know how this guy gets a lot of the videos he gets. He goes around. Yeah, he goes around, shoots some crazy video. Like he's an expert at hiding himself and just getting insane types of videos. And then and again, they're calling him a right-wing account. But are your eyes lying to you? This guy's showing you, Do Better Denver, showing you on video these insane things that are going on in our community. Like, he's putting himself out there. And some of these videos that he gets, he's probably a little bit in danger because of how close he gets to shoot these videos. But he's willing to do it to, make sure it's put out there. And we're seeing with our own eyes what 9 News refuses to show us. So, I give him a lot of credit for doing it. I follow him also. I've talked to him a few times, and look, it's going to take citizens like that to put the truth out there, because we're not getting the truth in our own media. We used to have great investigative journalists. I don't know what happened to journalism. It's not investigative. They just, whatever the city's telling them, they're just putting out there. And they never contacted me. They make it look like in a news article that they talked to me. Lazy journalism. They just took what I said off of X and put it in the article. They never contacted me. So, I mean, it's just lazy journalism.
Well, maybe they'll send a crew over there one day and go in there, which, I mean, now that it's shut down, I'm sure they're probably...
Now they will. And now they'll show all the trash in there. Yeah, they'll show all the trash as people left, and they kicked things in and they destroyed things as they left. They'll show that and say that that's what the building was the whole time. And they'll spin what they want to spin, and we've just got to discern the truth.
Well, John, I really appreciate it. We ran way over again. This was a little bit last minute, so we really appreciate you agreeing to do this. A very important issue that I don't think is going away. If anything, I think it's going to get worse. And so, it's good to have people like you on to talk about it, because, like you said, a lot of this stuff doesn't get covered by local news, whether it's because of negligence or something else. But, we need to be talking about it. We need to bring it to light. And highlight it again, because it's only going to get worse. John, what can you give us? I know you're very active on, I still call it Twitter, on X. And so people can go there and follow you and find out more about you. And because I know you have links to websites and things like that on X. Can you give us?
Go to X. It's the easiest way to follow me. I'm pretty active on there. I just wrote a book called De-Iced about immigration.
Nice. Let's see it.
Here's the book. You can get it on Amazon. If you really want to read my take on why the situation is the way it is, it's about a 2-hour read. Really, really easy to read, but it lays out the situation for you. You can get it on Amazon. And then again, I'm running for Congress in the 6th district. You can check out my campaign website at johnfabforcongress.com. That's JOHNFABB, the number 4 Congress.com, and kind of look at my platform there. And again, Jarvis, I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.
Having these discussions with me, because I think it's really important to the community.
For sure. Until next time, I'm sure we're going to have you back on pretty soon here to talk more about as these things develop and continue to happen, unfortunately. So we appreciate it, John.
All right. Have a great day.
You too, sir.
Thank you for listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast, your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.